Hello and welcome. I've made some upgrades to the ice cream cone pattern, so I thought I would share it again and just share it with the little updates here. So the things you need if you want to make one of these little summer treats for your cat friends are going to be worsted weight yarn and a color for the cherry, a color for whatever flavor ice cream you want, and a color for your cone. The other things you'll need are some optional polyfill, some kind of stuffing, whatever you like to use for stuffing, catnip, some yarn needles, you definitely want your 4mm hook, and a pair of scissors. That is everything you're gonna need, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, we're starting off with the magic circle. Long end crosses over the short, holding where they cross. We're going in, we're gonna pull up the yarn, pull it through that little loop you just made. There's our magic circle. We're gonna start off with 6 single crochets into that circle. Going in, wrap the yarn, pull it up, pull through both. I'm going to keep going until you have 6. Once you have all 6, we're going to pull on the tail, that beginning tail, to bring those two ends together. And we're going into that very first stitch you created with our hook. We're going to wrap the working yarn, pulling through there, and we're going to keep going, pulling through the loop that we left on the hook there. And now we've got an increase round. So that's round 1. We're going to chain 1 and we're going to go around with an increase. So every stitch is going to get 2 single crochets worked into it. So we're going into that first one. We'll pull up, pull through the 2 on the hook. Now we're going right back in to that exact same spot. This is going to take us from 6 single crochets up to 12. So every stitch gets 2 stitches worked into it. And when we get to the end, we'll join, we'll chain 1, and we'll meet back together for round 3. We've joined round 2. We're going to chain 1 if you haven't already. Our next round is also going to be an increase round. This one is going to be a repeating pattern of 1 plain single crochet in the first stitch and 2 in the next. So we've got just 1 individual single crochet in the next stitch, followed by that increase, working 2 stitches into that next stitch. So going right back into that same spot. We're repeating this all the way around. We're going to go from 12 stitches up to 18. At the end of the round, we'll join, we'll chain 1, and we'll meet back up for round 4. The last increase round for this part, we're going to join, chain 1, which we've done here already, and then single crochet in the first 2 stitches. So 1 individual single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then that 3rd stitch, the following stitch, is going to be the increase, going in and then going into that same spot again. So we're repeating this all the way around for number 4 here. Just 2 plain and then 1 increase all the way until you're back at the beginning. This is going to take us from 18 to 24 stitches. We'll slip stitch, we'll chain 1, and then the following 3 rounds after that are just a single crochet, 1 in each round. So you're just going to go ahead and continue those on your own. So once you finish this increase round, it is 3 rounds of plain single crochets all the way around. So this round and those ones will all have 24 stitches at the end. Once you're done with round 7, we'll get back together for round, I like to call it 7.5. We've finished the first 7 rounds. The next one is going to be a little different. This is the one I like to call 7.5. So we're going to be working in the front loops only. So if you're looking at that little V, just that front part, we're going to work the back part later. So for now, we're just working the front. So we're going in just that front part of the V. It's easier to see later. And we're going to single crochet 2 into that first stitch. And then the next stitch, front loop only, we're going to work 3 single crochets. So we're repeating that same pattern all the way around. Front loop only, 2 in the first one, 3 stitches in the next. So we're going into that same spot 3 times. So nothing's going to change. We're just going front loop only. Now that we're a little farther along, I can show you a little easier. So you got the back loop is still there, front loop only with that hook, 2 in the first stitch, 3 in the next. When you get back around, we're going to slip stitch to join, and we're not going to chain 1 this time. We're going to end up cutting the yarn off and tying off before we start the next one. So go ahead, finish this little wavy around the bottom of our scoop, and we'll get back together to work on the cone. So we finished the bottom of that scoop. I've cut off the end of the yarn already. I've left my hook in there after my slip stitch. I'm just going to wrap the yarn over and pull through that loop once. And now we need our yarn needle. First, we're going to just make a little knot in the top here so that first little piece doesn't open up. And then we're just going to weave this part through our little ripple here to stay on the inside. So go ahead, grab your yarn needle. Once you have your yarn needle, we're going to thread that inside tail on first, and then kind of flipping it inside out a little bit. We're going to find any single piece of yarn from that very first round, any of those little legs. We're going through, and we're just going to make a simple knot and pull that as tight as we can, and then we're just going to leave that tail hanging out on the inside. We don't have to do anything special to it. And then that second tail we will thread onto our yarn needle, and we are going to just take it through the ripple and then work it in toward the center. So now it can just kind of hang out there. We'll just tuck it into the ball of the ice cream, and you can shorten these too if you want to, just so you have less to tuck in. And we're going to attach our cone color. So whatever color you're using for your cone, we're going to find that sort of where we join that little line of joins there to start from, just to give us a easy starting place. So now that back loop that you didn't use before, that's where we're going to be working. So I guess this is like round 7 3/4. So go ahead and grab your cone color, and we're just going to attach that. So we're in that first little space. We're going to wrap our yarn, pull it up, and then we're just going to create a knot here to keep that first little part there. And the tail of our knot is going to stay just hanging out on the inside of that scoop. You can shorten it if you need to. So we are going to chain 1, and then we're going to work 1 stitch all the way around, so each into the back loop there. So you should end up with 24 stitches at the end, so going into the back loop of that 7th round there. So just plain single crochets. We'll slip stitch to join, we'll chain 1 to get ready for that next round. So go ahead, finish that off, and we'll meet back at the end of this round. First round of our cone is done. Next one's going to be a decrease round. So we're going to have a plain single crochet in the first 2 stitches. So just 1 and then 1 in the next. And then we're going to work the next 2 stitches together. The decrease I like to do is to grab by the front loops only, those next 2 stitches. So you can see the back loops are still hanging out there. We're going to wrap, pull up, so now it just looks like a plain single crochet, wrap, pull through both of those. Now, if that's uncomfortable for your hands for whatever reason, or you just prefer a different way to decrease, that's absolutely okay with me. Whatever feels comfortable for you. We're just decreasing here. So we're going to repeat that same pattern all the way around, 2 plain single crochets followed by 1 decrease, the working of those next 2 stitches together. This is going to take us from 24 stitches down to 18, and then after this round we'll join, we'll chain 1, and then we are going to go ahead and have 2 plain single crochet rounds. So you're going to finish this one, and then the 2 after that are just going to have plain single crochet. So this one and the next 3 are all going to have 18 stitches in the round. All right, so go ahead, finish this one, finish those next 2, and we'll get back together for the one after that. Okay, we finished that decrease in those 2 plain rounds. Now we're on to our next decrease round. This one's going to be 1 plain single crochet in the first, and then working the next 2 stitches together. So decrease. We're repeating this pattern all the way around. So we're going to have 1 plain single crochet followed by a decrease. And once we get to the end, we will slip stitch or join, we'll chain 1, and then our next 2 rounds after that will be plain single crochet rounds. So we're going to finish this one, and then we're going to do the 2 plain rounds after. Each of those 3 rounds will have 12 stitches. You'll join at the end of each, you'll chain 1 and to keep going, and then we'll meet back up once you've finished these next 3 rounds. We're almost done. We've got 2 more rows / rounds to go, but before we get there, we're going to add our catnip if you're adding catnip, and some stuffing. You want to add however much stuffing you like. If you want it to be stiffer, you'd really go ham on that stuffing. If you want it to be a little softer, you can just kind of leave a little bit of that softness in there as you're squishing it. So just go ahead, catnip first so it doesn't fall out as you're adding your stuffing, and then as much stuffing as you like to have, and then we will get back together for the last 2 rounds. Last 2 rounds, this first one up is going to be decrease. We are going to be decreasing all the way around. So we're working these first 2 stitches together, and then the next 2 stitches, and the 2 stitches after that, going all the way until we have just 6 stitches left. We'll join that round, we'll chain 1, then we will have a plain single crochet round, so just 6, but then before we join, you'll have just enough space there to squeeze in a little extra stuffing if you need it, so that that bottom point isn't like looking droopy or sad. So go ahead, finish decreasing around, take 1 more plain single crochet round after that. So both of these rounds here will have 6 stitches at the top, and then we will close her up together. So I haven't joined yet. I did pull my last little loop out a little bit just in case I lose it here. I am going to add just that teensy little bit of stuffing in to the end, and then I brought out one of my knitting needles just to kind of jam it in there. You don't need to have a knitting needle. You could always have like a pencil or something. Even the other end of your crochet hook should fit in there. So you're just working all that crazy fluff into that last little bit. Once we've got it all in, we'll join that last round, and then you're going to need your yarn needle again, because we are going to weave the little bit of this closed. So I'm going to reclaim that loop, pulling on the yarn to resize it to my hook. We are joining, and now we're going to tie a little bit of a tail here. So we're cutting off, we're going to tie that tail, wrap it over that hook, pull it through that last loop, and we'll thread that onto our yarn needle. Okay, we've got that threaded on. We're going to go into the first stitch, out through the next, and we're going to repeat that 2 more times. That should take us back to the beginning of our little loop here. Once we've got that all threaded through, we can just pull on the tail. That's going to take that little hole at the bottom and close it up tight. So we're making that as snug as possible, and then we're going to go through right where that join was and create a little knot, just a simple knot here. Pulling that as tight as we can as well. And then whichever direction that knot kind of lays flat, we're going to send our yarn needle back through the toy. Just trying to get as far as you can, and then we are pulling the tail in, and we're going to snip it off so the tail just will live inside the toy. We don't have to worry about weaving it in anywhere. And actually, I turned mine into an innie for a second. Okay, so now the cone is done, the ice cream scoop is done. We are going to do the cherry, and then we're just going to sew it on. Our cherry for the top of the cone only has 3 rows, so this part will be very quick. We're going to start with our magic circle. We cross that long end over the short end. We're holding where they cross, going in. We're going to wrap pull up, wrap pull through that little loop you just made. There's our magic circle. We're going to single crochet 6 stitches into that magic circle. Once you have all 6, we will close up the little loop, and then it's just 2 more rounds after that. So go ahead and finish those 6 stitches. Once you have all 6, we're taking that tail, we're going to pull on it. That's going to bring those 2 ends of our circle together. Now we're finding the very first stitch, and we're going to take our hook. We're going to make sure that we're getting through the front and back of that little V there. Wrap, pull through, and then we're going to pull through the stitch we ended on just to slip stitch to join them. And we're going to chain 1, and then this next round we are going to single crochet 2 in each stitch. So now we are increasing. That's going to take us from 6 stitches to 12. So we're going in, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through both on the hook, and then we're going right back into that same spot. So we're going to continue this. At the end of this round, we'll slip stitch to join again. We'll chain 1, and then we'll meet together for the very last round of the little cherry. Round 2 is done. We've joined it, we've chained, and now round 3, our final round for our little cherry here, is just going to be single crochets all the way around. When we get to the end of this round, so we're just doing 1 stitch in every stitch, leaving us with 12. Once we get to the end, we'll join again. This time, instead of chaining 1 at the end, after we do our slip stitch, we are going to be cutting off the yarn, but we want to leave a pretty long tail, not insanely long or anything, but we're going to use it to sew our little cherry onto our ice cream. So you want to leave enough to go around at least once, maybe twice around your cherry at the bottom. So once we get there, we're going to join. And we'll take our scissors, leave that hook in there just for now so you don't accidentally lose it. Pull a little bit of that tail out, cut some off, and then we will wrap that yarn over the hook one last time, pull through that final loop, and then it'll tie it off for us. Okay, we've threaded the tail of the cherry through the yarn needle. Now this can go anywhere. I usually do it a little bit off to the side, but if you want it like literally directly on top, that's totally fine, or any other random place where maybe you don't want it at all, that's also okay. So we're going to start to attach it wherever you think you'd like it, and then when we're about halfway around, we're going to add a little stuffing underneath the cherry just to make sure that it doesn't look flat and lifeless. So because the cherry's so small, I'm just kind of going back and forth through the stitches. So I'm going to come up through here, and then I'm going back the other way because I skipped this one, and I'm going to come up through this side and grab that one, and then every stitch that I skip, I'm just going, that's the one I'm going to go back through next time. And almost there. Here we go. So now I've got enough of it attached that I can add the stuffing on there without trying to fight to have the cherry stay in place. So just the ittiest bit of stuffing is going to go right up there. And once you have all, however much stuffing you want up there, it's okay if you put too much, you can always take it away, or if you haven't quite had enough in there, you can always add more. And once you feel happy with however much you get in there, just making sure that it's still holding kind of a round shape. And I got a little too much in there. And then we'll keep going, so we're just going to keep on sewing around. So we're trying to come down through the ice cream and then back up through the cherry, and then back 1 stitch up through the next. And we're trying to kind of keep the stitches in a little narrow from the cherry so that they all end up hidden underneath it. You don't see them sort of poking out into the ice cream. So go ahead, keep going until you've got all of your cherry parts attached, and then once you feel satisfied with it, you can tie it off. And just like we did with the toy, you can take the tail and just pull it back through the cherry, cut it off wherever you get to. And that will be it. Now our cherry is attached, all our ends are hidden away, our cone's all closed up, and we are officially done with our little ice cream cone. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope your cat friends enjoy their new little toy. Bye!